best video settings for the Nikon Z6. Although the Nikon Z6 is relatively primitive compared with some of Nikon's later cameras, it can still give you pretty decent video footage. In this video, I'm going to tell you the best video settings for the Nikon Z6. The most important thing, by far, is to make sure you're in manual mode when shooting video, and that includes manual ISO. You don't want your exposure to fluctuate during video. Set your shutter speed to 1/2 your frame rate. So if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, set it to 1/50, and if you're shooting at 60 frames per second, set your shutter speed to 1/120. Also, make sure you go into the I menu and set your white balance to manual as well. Allowing your white balance to fluctuate is one of the easiest ways to ruin video. Okay, let's get into the video menu. In Choose Image Area, usually you'll want to set it to FX, but setting it to DX will give you an extra crop without sacrificing resolution, which can be useful from time to time. In Frame Size, Frame Rate, there are many options. The most ideal is one of the three 3840 by 2160 options, which is 4K. Why is this? Well, there are also 1920 by 1080 or 1080p options too. But if we look at this side-by-side comparison between 1080p and 4K downsized to 1080p, you'll see that the 4K file that was downsized has much more detail than the 1080p file. Therefore, even if your final output is 1080p, your video will look much better if you shoot the footage in 4K. The number that comes after the resolution is the frame rate. 30p means 30 frames per second. If you want a more cinematic look used in films, select 24p. Otherwise, select 30p for smoother video. Now, if you want to shoot at frame rates higher than 30 frames per second, you'll have to choose one of the 1920 by 1080 options. You can shoot as high as 120 frames per second on the 1920 by 1080p options. At the bottom of the menu, there are slow motion options as well. These slow down the video for you so that 1920 by 1080 30x4 is the same thing as shooting 1920 by 1080 120p and slowing it down in post-production. Next, there is a setting called Movie Quality. You can only change it at the lower resolutions and frame rates. You should always keep it at high quality. The normal quality is useless. What about movie file type? I usually keep it on MP4, and I haven't found much difference between the two. MP4 plays better with VLC, and MOV is a common Apple format. Under ISO sensitivity settings, make sure Auto ISO Control Mode M is set to off, and then set your ISO manually by using your camera's ISO button to get a proper exposure. White balance should also be manual. Set it to the option that most closely matches your scene. Under Picture Control, if you want the most flexibility in post, set the picture to neutral. Go in and customize it too by pressing the right arrow. Whatever you do, don't increase the sharpening too much because the in-camera sharpening looks harsh. I keep mine at +1 for sharpening and +1 for mid-range sharpening at most. It's also a good idea to keep the contrast at 0 at most so you can get more tonal range in editing. But depending on your scene, you might want to increase the saturation a little bit, as the default saturation level is a bit dull. There are also other picture controls though. If you just want to shoot a quick video and make it fun, I wouldn't hesitate to experiment with the creative picture controls. Keep in mind that unlike photography, there is no raw video here, so it's a bit harder to creatively edit any given picture control. Thus, you should consider selecting one that's closest to the look that you want. For active D-lighting, I'd turn it off. I'm wary of any setting which attempts to modify lighting, as it can sometimes cause exposure to fluctuate. High ISO noise reduction should be low or off. The normal and high modes start to look a little blotchy. I also turn vignetting control off and diffraction compensation off. Auto distortion control can be useful if your lens has distortion. Flicker reduction can be kept at auto. The metering doesn't matter that much because, in video, you'll always want to set your exposure manually. Now, what about the focus area? The Z6 is not so great at focusing on stuff while taking video, so most of the time, you'll probably want to set it to AFS to initially set your focus. AFC means that the camera will keep trying to focus while you hold down the focus button, whereas AFF, or full-time autofocus, means that the camera will be autofocusing always. That can be useful if you want to track yourself or some other person in the frame, but keep in mind that it can also cause the video to pulse, especially in lower light. It's better than nothing, but the best case scenario is to focus before your video starts. Then, set your AF area mode as you wish. For example, if you want to film yourself talking and you have no one to operate the camera for you, you'll have to set the camera to AFF and the mode to Auto Area AF with face recognition. For vibration reduction, you should keep it on if you are hand holding a still shot, Sport if you are following something handheld, and off if you are on a tripod or you want shaky footage. Electronic VR can be useful if you are hand-holding a still shot and want even more stabilization, but usually I keep it off because sometimes it can have weird effects. You might have to experiment. Okay, I know this is exhausting, but let's keep on going to the microphone. First of all, you have to realize that you're never going to record good audio with the built-in microphone. But in any case, here's how to set it. There's a meter in the camera here. Set the number as high as you can without the sound in your scene going over 0. In the attenuator, set it to enable if you're recording voice and disable otherwise. In frequency response, set it to wide for general sounds and voice for the human voice. If there's wind, turn on the wind noise reduction. Keep in mind that for the built-in microphone, these settings will just slightly improve your scratch track. If you're monitoring with headphones, you can also set the volume here. And finally, the Z6 can also record time codes for syncing video, but that's an advanced topic for another video. Is that it? Well, not exactly. Don't forget to go to the settings menu under G, since there are some movie options here. Customize the I menu so that at least you have white balance, quality, VR, electronic stabilization, and autofocus modes in it so you can easily switch them. One more thing. In the G menu, you can also change the AF speed. You can make it a bit slower to give smoother focus shifts and reduce the tracking sensitivity to make the camera a little less sensitive when using full-time autofocus or AFF mode. That's it. I hope this video helped you set up your Nikon Z6, but if it didn't, use your flip phone.